All right. Yes, indeed, it is. Once again, time for another episode of the Nikka Sports Show, everybody. I am your host, Kenny, and I am coming to you live from the desert. We are kissing it. Happy Tuesday, everybody. That's kissing with the KSS abbreviation. I am joined once again by the one, the only, Nikka, everybody. Happy Tuesday, Nikka.
Oh, thank you. And hello to our new and returning listeners. Since we changed from baseball to sports, so hopefully we get bigger crowds and more enthusiasm coming our way. But
Well,
also,
yes. We're trying to label the episodes, by the way. So if you just want to listen to baseball or if you just want to listen to football, you'll know which episode to tune into. But we will be posting multiple episodes every week, and we will be here giving our thoughts on and opinions on what's happening around the world of sports. Today, we are here to talk about baseball because the dust has settled on the Super Bowl. In case you missed it, we had our big Super Bowl reaction episode posted yesterday, so be sure to check that out. And as the dust has settled on the Super Bowl, we now are looking ahead to baseball season. In fact, on Sunday, Cubs pitchers and catchers reported for duty, everybody.
They're singing, go, Cubs, go! Go, Cubs, go!
Because they have a big series in Japan with the Dodgers like a week or 10 days before the actual regular season starts.
yes, it's on February
Because of
20th.
the time travel and the time change and everything. The Padres and Dodgers did this last year, of course, in Korea, South Korea. This year it's Japan, and it's the Cubs and the Dodgers. No surprise there. I think they have the most Japanese players on their team.
So you're saying it was rigged?
Well, I'm just saying it was strategically chosen.
Okay, gotcha.
I was looking at the Super Bowl, though, and it occurred to me that A.J. Brown might look really good in left field for the Padres. I don't know about you, Nikka.
He was drafted by the Padres.
Yes,
long
that's
time
exactly
ago.
why I brought this up. I wanted to playfully point that out. Boy, could use him out there.
Yeah,
Looks
we
fast. Looks like he's got some good hands, too. Can he hit? Can he hit a baseball, everybody? That's
Well,
all.
we
It
didn't
always
see
comes down to
that.
that, doesn't it? Well, the Cubs are underway at spring training, and we did see Shota Imanaga at camp on video, and he was having a fun conversation with two legendary Cubs, everybody. Fergie Jenkins, the Hall of Famer, and the Red Baron, everybody. Rick Sutcliffe was there. What a great picture. I mean, this if you're a Cubs fan at all, this has to pull at your heartstrings. We're talking like 3 generations of Cubs pitchers here in one picture, and that's pretty damn cool.
That's awesome.
And it's cool to know that, like, even Fergie, who goes way back to the 60s and 70s, is still going to spring training, man. Like, awesome.
Wow, that's fantastic. Do you think they have a special place for the retired MLB at the spring training? Like they can go into the clubhouse and chat with a bunch of other
Well, you
players?
kind of get that impression because of what Jim Edmonds, we talked about that on our last podcast, how he's been sort of like, and he and some of the other veterans feel disinvited from Cardinals camp. But I do think that a lot of organizations try to maintain relationships with players, and like, I think a lot of players ultimately just miss being around the game and want to go to spring training and hang out on the field with the guys for a few minutes. Like that's what they miss the most, the camaraderie and like just being able to be a boy again for a few minutes, I guess.
Yeah, you play for so long. It's been your life for so long.
It
You
is.
want to maintain it and be around it. It's very similar to people that you want to go outside and go hiking or do some activities. instead
Well,
of
there's an old
home.
mantra that says like we all play the children's game until we can't anymore. And it carefully points out that this is a children's game. And those of us that are lucky enough to play it later in life and make millions of dollars doing it, they feel like they're part of a special club. And this is a exclusive as it gets when it comes to just being a Major League Baseball player. Even look at Plouffe. He doesn't have an outstanding career, but he's part of the club.
Yeah.
And he always will be.
He wants to stick around.
And then there's Elitism Club, which is like the Hall of Fame, gold jacket. And so there's different clubs and tiers along the way, all-stars.
Hey, just like in life.
They'll always find a way to divide them up
Don't they? Everywhere.
and make it more exclusive. But what a cool picture, and some breaking news out of the first day of Cubs camp as well. We had Craig Counsell announcing that Shota Imanaga will pitch during that Japan trip. I'm kind of playfully joking here because, like, who didn't expect him to pitch one of these games? Goodness, that's hilarious.
Somebody. But do you think he's going to have a warm welcoming back in Japan?
Yeah, absolutely. Seiya Suzuki as well. And then you have all the three-headed monster on the Dodgers. So you're going to have, like, 5 players from Team Japan represented in this series, at least from the 2023 World Baseball Classic team. I think Seiya Suzuki was hurt, but I think he was a roster member during that trip or during that series. So anyways, that's a few weeks out. Spring training will be getting underway. We have the Dodgers have reported as well. The rest of the teams will be reporting tomorrow and onward from this week, and games will begin in about 10 days, everybody. So
the Dodgers and the Cubs game starts February 20th.
Yeah.
And then there are games
the 21st, right, for everyone else. So
yep.
Here we go, everybody. Buckle up. Get ready. It's about to get underway. We're going to get to some signings here in a second. But before we do, I just wanted to mention one final thing here. We were following the Caribbean series, and Dominican Republic pulled off the upset at the end.
They did.
They defeated Mexico. I think Mexico was favored in this matchup, and
Mexico was undefeated through the whole series.
They were. It was like a double elimination tournament, I think, or something like that. But nevertheless, congratulations to Team Dominican Republic on your victory and manager, Albert Pujols, everybody. Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
He defeated Team Mexico's Benji Gil. If you'll remember, I was a big fan of Benji Gil, kind of becoming the Padres manager last offseason. But nevertheless, I'm really happy we got Mike Schilt.
All right. Thanks for keeping it short.
No problem. All right. Well, Nikka, we have some breaking news this week, everybody. Are you ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
This bulletin just handed to me.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right. Well, the first little bit I got here is that the Brewers, everybody, have announced that they're including a patch on their uniforms this year to commemorate the life of the late, great Bob Uecker.
Hello again, everybody.
Hello to you too, Harry Doyle / Bob Uecker. It's good to hear your voice again, and we'll always have it here on the Nikka Sports Show. You are always welcome. And yeah, I love this move by the Brewers. Obviously, Bob Uecker's a huge part of their team, their culture. We saw last year when they made the playoffs and they brought him down to the clubhouse, and the players were like kind of celebrating when they made the playoffs. And you could tell when they got eliminated by the Mets that they were a little bit sad. And there was I think already whispers that he might not make it that much longer. So it's really too bad that they weren't able to give him that championship. But I know he'll be watching, just like Peter Seidler's watching still. And it's nice that they're going to commemorate him.
He was their broadcaster for 54 years.
He was. And they don't call him the Uecker seats for nothing, folks. He was always joking about how he had to sit in the nosebleeds. But anyways, yeah. This is a classy move by the Brew Crew here in Milwaukee, and I know their fans are going to love it, eat it up, and probably buy lots of T-shirts with patches on it or things to commemorate the life of Bob Uecker.
It's a cute little patch, honestly.
Oh, of course. They did a nice little number on it.
Mm-hmm, with his signature. It has his own signature in the middle.
Yep. Probably something that was once he would describe as worthless is now a treasureless heirloom.
Do you think they're going to have his card at some point? The Topps might come up with a card with his signature, since the signature is such a part of his.
I mean, it would have to have been signed while he was alive. So, and he might have an autograph somewhere in release, because they do always include some former players. I'd have to check in on that to know specifically, but Bob Uecker, everybody. All right, well, we had some signings, Nikka.
Oh.
As spring training is close to getting underway, the first signing I want to announce is that Kenley Jansen, the closer, is headed from Boston all the way to Southern California to now join nursing home that is being built in Anaheim.
It's a retirement community.
The Angels are literally becoming a retirement community, everybody. If you look at their roster lately, Tim Anderson, even Mike Trout, I'll throw him in there, the way he's been breaking down.
It's a good climate for all of them.
I guess they're trying to go for the oldest team ever, like assembled, and
I think that's the Phillies still, but maybe at some point they will pass the Phillies. The Angels will.
we'll have to see if they can find some young legs under these old trees. I think I just made that up.
That's cool.
All right. Well, we also had some signings in a little bit south of Anaheim in San Diego, everybody, and it was really not what Padres fans were wanting from the free agent market, but nevertheless, 3 players were added to the roster and spring training invitees, and they are Connor Joe from Pittsburgh, Jason Hayward, who was from the Dodgers and Astros last year, and Gavin Sheets, who was signed a minor league contract from the White Sox. And from all intents and purposes, this is going to plug the holes on this Padres team right now in left field and first base. They're going to be relying on these players to get what they got from Jurickson Profar last year. And that leads us to today's Daily Double, everybody. The first one ever on the Nikka Sports Show. If you're here listening to it, consider yourselves lucky. This is our first ever Daily Double. This is our segment where we find kind of conflicting viewpoints in the media for you. And today's topic is the 2025 Padres season and what where they're at. First, we're going to hear from Roflo, Robert Flores of MLB Network, and then we're going to hear from Harold Reynolds on MLB Network, and then we're going to discuss it. Nikka, can you cue up Roflo, Robert Flores for us, please?
How do we see the Friars going into 25?
Well,
they're not close to being the team they were the last 3 years.
Those subtractions are significant, and one that probably doesn't get talked about, Kyle Higashioka.
Yeah.
I thought he found the power stroke last year. He got consistent opportunities behind the plate and getting consistent ABs. So I just hope that the Padres can keep the momentum going. I hope that they can find a way to hang with the Dodgers a little bit, to push them, but that's a tough division and it's a tall order.
Well, Roflo is keeping a little bit of cautious optimism here, everybody. But before we break it down and discuss this, let's hear what Harold had to say. Harold Reynolds, everybody.
I think we'll see Cease and King traded in the spring. I just think they're on a different teardown, and it's sad to see because they were really right there knocking on the door with the Dodgers. They had that amazing run. You think about the Bryce Harper home run. They were that close to going to a World Series. To see where they're headed now, it's disheartening.
Well, Harold Reynolds is starting to piss me off a little bit because a couple weeks ago he suggested that the Padres should trade Tatis and that they should keep everyone else and trade Tatis. And now he's like, no, they should blow it up, the whole thing.
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West.
And got really big issues with that. Robert Flores, on the other hand, is I feel like trying to keep this optimistic approach that maybe the Padres can continue to keep challenging the Dodgers here, maybe, or he hopes that they can. And I just got to kind of push back on both of these viewpoints a little bit and say, I don't think the Padres signed Mike Schilt to an extension to just give up. So, Harold, you got to stop talking about blowing up the Padres team.
'Cause I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith.
You just got to get that thought out of your head. Like, they just won the second most games in franchise history under the first year of a new manager that they just signed to an extension. Stop it, dude. You're barking up the wrong tree. I know you want them to trade Tatis, and I know if you think they suck and get rid of Cease and King and they suck, that maybe they'll trade Tatis at the deadline or something. And dude, it's not going to happen. Like, the 23 jerseys in that stadium, if the Padres traded Tatis, it would only further fuel the allegations that the team is being run by Dodger fans. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely spot on. And the fact that this happens every single year on MLB. This year is Harold.
Brian Kenny, you're talking
Right,
about.
Brian Kenny. Yes.
Exactly. He was like, Padres need to blow it up. Padres need to blow it
Yeah.
up.
Sell all the time. Sell before the season starts. Just sell the team. Or
Exactly.
sell the players.
I know a lot of fans would wish they would sell the team right now. Well, what do you think of the additions that the Padres made with Connor Joe and Jason Hayward and Gavin Sheets? I mean, do you think that I guess I kind of feel like they're just being brought in to compete for spots, really. You know, they're Jason Hayward's a good defender. He's always going to be, I feel like, until his legs probably stop working. Can the Padres rework Gavin Sheets? Can they fix him? I think that will be a big X factor on the season potentially. And Connor Joe, he's a hometown kid. You know, he's bringing probably some good vibes and work ethic to the team. And I just wonder what Mike Schilt will get out of these guys, you know, because look what they got out of Profar last year. But Profar's lucky he put up the season he did last year and got paid, I'll be honest. And I'm glad for him, and I know a lot of the Padres players are glad that he got paid and got some due in his career. But the numbers before last year did not – they were not going to be $42 million. 243 average with the Rockies? Come on.
You know, Connor Joe from the Pirates.
Pirate scum! Come on, you sea rats!
Yeah,
He's not
exactly.
the youngest, but he's like at his prime age. He's only 32, and he will probably switch between Arise and him for the first base.
And he can
bouncing
also
back and
play
forth.
some left field as well. You know, if you want to
Yes.
play matchups, I think he bats righty.
Yes,
Gavin
he does.
Sheets bats lefty. Jason Hayward bats lefty. So it could be a matchups thing. You know, they
could
could
be.
play matchups with these three guys and kind of keep them on a platoon. Arise also a lefty. So we know he likes to play the field too. So I think Schultz will have to do a good job managing that situation and make sure Luis Arise stays happy if he's going to stay here. I don't see the Padres trading Cease or King throughout spring training. I could be wrong. I would put them higher chances on Cease getting traded because they got King for such a good deal.
So you think they're gonna potentially move Cease before the season starts or before the All-Star break?
I think they could potentially do it before the season starts. But once the season starts, I think it's all going to determine what happens then on the field, if that makes sense. If the Padres are in a good spot at the All-Star break, I don't see them trying to subtract. I see them trying to add potentially to this team. I don't know. I just have a hard time buying into the philosophy that coming off the second most wins in franchise history, you should sell. I know they lost a lot of pieces, but Martin Perez wasn't here on this team at the start of last year. Tanner Scott was not on this team at the start of last year.
I know, and they all make this big deal out of losing Jurickson Profar. And yes, he did great last year. That doesn't mean he will repeat the same.
It does not.
Exactly. So you have Jason Hayward potentially stepping up in that shoes, I guess.
Well, I don't think we expect Hayward to put up 20 home runs this year either and have a Profar-like breakout season. And I don't think he is expecting that of himself either.
No, he's more as a mentor to somebody younger that's going to come up. And
He's a role player on this team. You know, like the Padres will go as far as Machado and Tatis and everyone else takes him. A lot of people don't talk about the fact that Fernando says he's healthy. He had that femur stress fracture last year that he had to miss almost half the season from. Manny Machado was rehabbing a big surgery coming into last year and got off to a slower start. I mean, Xander Bogaerts had that nasty injury last year. Was it the year before where he dove and like separated his shoulder? And it was similar to the Trevor Story injury in Boston, and that he had similar, like the way they dove, they landed on their shoulders wrong and it did some damage. I want to see what this Padres team does healthy out of the gate, and kind of I hope Mike Schilt can tap into that anger about the way they lost last year.
I do too. And I think because there's such a focus on the Dodgers, what they've been doing and how they've been doing things, automatically the mainstream media goes to the Padres because they were the only team that really competed with the Dodgers at the end of the season.
It looks like that.
Right. And
the way they played them the toughest in the playoffs.
exactly.
So
the optics for all of these trades Dodgers are doing this, but the Padres are not. Therefore, sell the team. I mean, sell everybody.
Absolutely.
There's no middle ground.
I'm with you. I think, honestly, we're in a wait and see how these guys, first and foremost, play in spring training. They're going to be competing for spots and jobs. We haven't talked about Tirso Ornelas, who's also coming to spring training camp, who's 24 years old, who has really similar numbers to Michael Busch, who's on the Cubs in the minor leagues. He's a couple years younger than him. He might be competing for a spot in left field. You don't know yet. And also, you have to remember that Ethan Salas at catcher and Leodalis DeVries at shortstop are, two of the top 50 prospects in baseball right now and are waiting in the wings, to hopefully join this veteran group at some point. I think that is AJ Preller's ultimate vision, is to have those guys come up and play with Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, Cronenworth, and whoever else is still left when they get here. That's all. All right. Well, that's today's Daily Double, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our first Daily Double segment. And I do love that Daily Double sound effect.
Well, hopefully we're going to use it a lot more.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we got one final news story for you today. And this one does borderline on the conspiracy theory. So, Nikka, will you take us to the Twilight Zone for a second? Thank you very much. And this soundbite comes to us from the Dodger Territory podcast, which is part of the Foul Territory network of podcasts. And this is Andrew Friedman talking about how the Dodgers used their two-way advantage with Shohei Ohtani to recruit Roki Sasaki to the team. And this kind of raised some eyebrows. Play the soundbite first.
The two-way designation allows us to not count Shohei as a pitcher, which in turn allows us to have flexibility with our starting rotation and still maintain an 8-man bullpen. And that was part of our pitch to Roki, and something that we believed very strongly was no team was better equipped to bring him along in the major leagues than we were because of Shohei.
Thank you, Nikka, for that. So if you hear what he's saying here, the Dodgers get an advantage with Shohei Ohtani by him being classified as a two-way player. He does not count on their roster of pitchers. So theoretically, technically, the Dodgers, because they have a two-way player, get to have an extra pitcher on their pitching staff when we live in a day and age where pitching is at a premium. Mm-hmm. And wow, they get a huge advantage over everybody because of that.
That's crazy. And that's the only team because they have Shohei, obviously.
Correct. He's the only two-way player in the league.
So they cannot come back and say, like, well, why owners of any other team go and find two-way player for themselves to compete? They cannot use that argument.
Exactly. There's only been like two in the history of baseball, and one of them didn't really do it at the same time, Babe Ruth. He did pitch some games with the Yankees. It's not very commonly, though. However, boy, oh boy, this only gets worse because according to this article that I found on Sportskeeda, Major League Baseball supposedly has rewritten the rules in the offseason to accommodate the Dodgers, because if you'll remember, Shohei Ohtani did not pitch at all last year. And according to the way the rules were written last year, said that a player must pitch at least 20 major league innings and a player must start at least 20 major league games at a position or designated hitter with at least 3 at-bats in those games. Now, this also had to be done in like the current season or the previous season. And that's how it was worded before that. Well, now the language says in either the current season or any of the 2 previous seasons. So theoretically, before this rule was changed, if the season started tomorrow, Ohtani would have to re-earn his two-way status. And just to be clear, I don't really agree with that. But I don't also agree with the fact that the Dodgers or that Major League Baseball is apparently just willy-nilly rewriting the rules to accommodate the Dodgers. And that this is way too convoluted. There's a much simpler fix for this, Nikka.
What's that?
Well, that is just designate a career two-way playership to a certain player once they reach a certain threshold of games. Like they've earned it as a career. Ohtani was hurt last year. That's why he didn't pitch. It's not like he was available.
Right. He wasn't taking a year off from pitching.
He was able to continue hitting and obviously did it at a high level, but he didn't pitch because of his elbow surgery. So I just have a hard time accepting that when he's clearly a starting pitcher. He's clearly a starting designated hitter. He's clearly a two-way player in the minds of all of us. Well, why not just make it a career designation when you've done instead of the 20 in every season? And now you look dirty changing a rule for one player for one team.
Again, yes, you could make a conspiracy theory based on this. Nobody talked about this. It was done behind closed door. Nobody knew. And then we find out it was all to draw Rocky Sasaki into the role.
I'm not saying that because Ohtani would have earned his two-way playership back.
Nobody's arguing that.
And Rocky Sasaki was recruited, though, for more than one season. I'm just saying that the fact that they get to use this right out of the gate and he doesn't have to earn it back, I disagree with that. I don't necessarily agree, though, that he should have ever lost it in the first place either, because he's clearly a two-way player in my mind, and that's just how I see it.
Okay, then why change the rule? Well, who benefits from changing that rule the most?
Only the Dodgers right now.
Only the Dodgers.
It's shady. It is. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that I don't feel like Shohei Ohtani should be declared not a two-way player because of his entire career performance. And I think
agree with you.
The whole rule should just be rewritten to just make it palatable for everybody. If you have a two-way player and they do it 50 times the threshold, whether it's DHing appearances or pitching appearances, give it to them based on a career merit. And from that point forward, any team that they're on will get this designation. Will it take a little longer to earn? Yes, it will. It will take multiple seasons probably to get 50 starts as a pitcher and 50 starts as a DH. But once you get it, you then never lose it.
No, that's a great point, and that would be really nice to implement across the whole MLB. Now, with that change, would that affect every team, and whoever has a two-way player will be able to have additional pitcher on their staff?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Oh, I know, but do you agree with that rule, or that shouldn't be included in this whole situation?
Well, I guess maybe it should change to a flex position where you can carry a two-way player or an extra pitcher. It's up to you.
That evens the playing field, basically, because why is the Dodgers, they have a leg up with additional pitcher?
Well, we talk about all the time in fantasy football. You'll have a flex position where you can start maybe a wide receiver or a running back, depending on your matchups that week and who you think might score more points.
That should be available for baseball as well.
Yeah, you could implement something similar like this where one of your roster spots is a flex spot. It's for the Shohei Ohtanis of the world. And if you don't have one, if you're not lucky enough to be one of the other, there's only one.
Right.
There's only one two-way player in baseball. So if you're one of the other 29 teams and you're not so lucky to have Shohei Ohtani, should you get an extra pitching slot on your roster somehow with this flex spot or whatever, then maybe, who knows? That's all the news I think we have this week. That's fit to print, Nikka.
All right.
But holy cow, we mentioned that Cubs camp was starting, and that led to some rumors, everybody, right out of the gate. Nikka, will you cue the music?
Are the rumors true?
I love rumors.
You're all vulnerable to vicious rumors.
Well, you know how this town is. People talk and they spread these cruel rumors.
Rumors spread by whom?
And I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, yeah.
Thank you, DJ Nikka over there. And yeah, we got Nikka's doing a little DJ dance. Made me laugh. But boy, oh boy, the Cubs, they kind of got, I guess, unlucky here because when you're the only team that's starting spring training, maybe they had more media show up.
Maybe.
I don't know. It was Super Bowl Sunday, so you figure some of the media wanted to get the game in. But I think before the game started, Jed Hoyer, the Cubs general manager, addressed the media to officially kick off Cubs camp. And boy, oh boy, This is how it started. Please play the clip, Nikka.
Jeremy, Tom said you guys will wind up around the CBT. You're not there yet. Bregman is still a free agent. I guess what would it take to get that to the finish line?
Yeah, I obviously can't comment on any individual players.
You could on him. He's a free agent, right?
I can't talk about free agency.
All right.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This wound up going on for like almost another 30 minutes, apparently. And I don't think that's an over-exaggeration, but all anybody wanted to know during the entire time was about Alex Bregman and whether the Cubs were going to sign him or not. And
we still want to know.
We still want to know because Alex Bregman is still unsigned. This was on Sunday, by the way, Super Bowl Sunday, as I said. So today we're recording. It's Tuesday afternoon. We still have no signing yet.
Nope.
No signing, no sighting, but we do have word that this is a clear three-headed monster race, right? It is the Boston Red Sox, the Detroit Tigers, or your Chicago Cubs, everybody. We don't have any inside track on this one. I think Boston's a weird fit with Devers because of the third baseman thing. The Tigers are in need. But is that too far north for Bregman? I feel like he wants to play in Chicago because it's probably where he'll be the most valuable.
Well, it's a bigger market, I think, also versus Detroit.
And they would have a serious chance to compete with him, I feel like, this year with the roster that they have on paper. Obviously, it's a long season, but you feel better about them matching up with the Dodgers in the playoffs with Alex Bregman on your team. However, it should be noted that the Cubs have a player named Matt Shaw in their minor league system who is not too shabby looking himself, and he had a 929 OPS in AAA in 35 games last year. By all intents and purposes, everyone feels like he's major league ready from the scouting department. I think that's what we read earlier. Yes, Nikka?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's ready to be on the field. So I assume he's going to compete for the spot during the spring training. Is he in the spring training? I would imagine.
Definitely. Now, the only weird thing about this is I feel like it's a little strange that the Cubs also rumored to be looking at another veteran third baseman, and that is Justin Turner.
That's only if Bregman doesn't work out.
Sure, but what about Matt Shaw if Bregman doesn't work out, I think is the question. I really think that this is just a backup plan to have depth at the position, veteran leadership. Justin Turner can play some first base. He can provide some veteran leadership to a team of younger players that has good, solid veterans, but not necessarily a team of champions. And we know Justin Turner has a ring, and we know that he has a lot of experience that's sought after.
Oh, sure. I think the Cubs want to have plan A, plan B, and plan C, just in case.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, Jed Hoyer, the Cubs, I think he's the president now, right? And I don't remember because Theo was president. I think he got promoted to president, but he does not have a contract after this year. So I think he might be feeling a little bit of the hot seat and might be feeling like he's under some pressure.
Yeah. How can you work on the one-year contract?
I can't manage this team under a one-year contract.
Exactly. I can't work on a one-year contract. And such is the business of baseball. There are few who can. Well, we also had some injury news to get to with the start of Cubs camp. Nikka, is there a doctor in the house?
Ready?
Yes, doctor.
Doctor, give me the news.
I must confess, you have an astonishingly good idea there, Doctor.
Damn it, man, I'm a doctor, not a torpedo technician.
Dr. Harris.
Yes?
Do you concur?
Is there anything you can do, doctor?
Somebody give me a doctor. Somebody give me a doctor.
Who called the doctor? Well, Javier Assad has called the doctor, everybody, and congratulations to him on being this year's first recipient of an oblique injury, everybody.
I think we need to start making oblique injuries and...
everybody else?
No, what was the other? The ass injuries.
Oh, hamstrings.
Hamstrings, thank you. Because those are the two most common injuries during the spring training and the first half of the season.
I had to move and report to camp, and I didn't. I got an injury.
Something.
Jeez, what do these guys do in the off season? I know it's probably a grueling season, and they want to do nothing or relax, but
you gotta move though.
Gotta move and gotta keep in shape, man.
You got to move.
It's not hard.
Walk a little. Stretch.
At least.
All
right. Well, Javier Assad has oblique soreness, and there's no timetable right now.
Of course not.
No.
It's his first injury. It might take a month. It might take a week.
We also got
too serious.
We also got Cubs pitcher Brandon Birdsell on the shelf with some shoulder soreness.
Sorry,
everybody.
What is his last name?
Birdsell. That's Bird BIRD Cell SELL.
Was
and
he
it's
in the business of
one word.
Birds?
I guess his family must have been bird sellers in there when they received their name.
All right.
Nico Horner is out. He had right forearm surgery in the offseason, and according to manager Craig Counsell, he's in a great spot. He's not going to miss that much time, if any at all. That's pretty good news for Cub fans here, and they're going to need a healthy Nico Horner. Nico Horner, believe it or not, is one of the best players at his position in terms of WAR. He has amazingly good fielding skills and pretty decent stick. So he winds up getting a pretty decent WAR clip every year. I just find that stuff fascinating. But Nico Horner has 15.1 WAR in his career. He racked up 3.7 last year. So anyways, keep an eye on that. For 27, 28 years old, if he racks up 4 more WAR every year for another 7 or 8 years, he's going to be in the 40s in WAR. That's not going to be a Hall of Fame level career, but it's going to be like the next best thing.
Okay. I always liked Nico Horner on the Cubs. He always had a great defensive capabilities.
Oh, yeah. And he's a really cool, punchy hitter, I feel like. He punches the ball. All right. Well, Nico Horner, everybody. Let's keep an eye on him. He's entering, by the way, his 7th season. 7th in the majors. He was kind of talked about possibly being traded. The Cubs do have some Matt Shaw, like we talked about, some pieces coming up through their farm system that are ready. And I would be kind of sad if the Cubs traded Nico Horner, because I think he's one hell of a solid ball player, like I just showed you. And you can't underestimate that WAR that he racks up year after year. All right, well, that is this week's first injury report of 2025, everybody. But get well soon to all the walking wounded in the Chicago Cubs locker room. And we'll see who else shows up to camp injured this week and maybe have some new injuries for the next show.
You mean who is going to limp to the spring training?
Who's gonna be the next oblique victim of the year, Nikka? All right, well, before we get out of here today, everybody, I want to quickly touch base on one of our favorite times of the year. It is tomorrow, the release of Topps 2025. The first baseball set is coming out, the Flagship design. And if you know, this is the start of basically the baseball card season, because this is Series 1, then there's going to be Series 2, then there's going to be Topps Chrome, which is going to be like kind of a best of combination of Series 1 and Series 2. And then we have Topps Update in the fall that features like all the trades and any call-ups that make the cutoff and things like that. They're all featured in their own set. And then we have Topps Chrome Update as well, which is like a shortened down version of that set. So between all of these sets throughout the year, this is the first one, and this is kind of the one that kicks it off, because all the designs are going to be in this design for the whole year.
And this is also the one that features all the players for this season.
Well, Series 1 is going to be a 350 card set. Series 2 is a 350 card set. And like I would predict, Juan Soto, for example, his first Mets card will probably be in Series 2. Now, last year, they had a card of Juan Soto on the Yankees and a card of Shohei Ohtani on the Dodgers in Series 1, but as short prints only. And I feel like they might do something similar with Juan Soto on the Mets this year. So stay tuned. I'm sure people will be looking for those. I even saw some of these have gotten released early. People have started opening boxes of them. So be on the lookout. The first images of the product in the wild are being released on X and Reddit and other places. No spoiler alerts, really. People know what they're looking for here.
Who is the most coveted player that they are searching?
Oh, that's a great question, Nikka. I mean, whenever it comes to like a flagship release like this, it's always about the rookies, right? It's whose card is the first one that they're making. After that, it's like what I talked about, Gold Cup cards, which are players' second-year cards if they were really good in their rookie years. So I can see already that Jackson Churio has a Gold Cup card. I'm sure Jackson Merrill is going to have a Gold Cup card because he was in the All-Star game. So players like that will get their Skeens will have a Gold Cup card.
Okay.
And then the rookies, though. The rookies are big this year. We got James Wood and Dylan Cruz are both in this set as flagship rookies. James Wood, of course, is the 6'7" left-handed hitting left fielder for the Washington Nationals, who came over from the Padres when the Nationals traded Juan Soto to the Padres.
Oh, it's been a while.
But then he only debuted last year after the cutoff date. So the interesting thing about James Wood is he's already played in the majors for almost half a season, and he was looking good. He's looking like he's going to be as advertised. So whenever you have a rookie like that that's now got their first card after they've gotten actual playing time, I think it makes it more coveted because people already are under the impression that he's going to live up to the promise a little bit. The other big rookie here is Dylan Cruz, everybody. And if you'll remember, Dylan Cruz was the LSU teammate of Paul Skeens, who was drafted second after Paul Skeens in the same draft. And he has also got major league experience last year near the end of the season with the Nationals. So he also was looking like he's going to be as advertised. And you have this kind of coalition of young talent in Washington coming together. Of course, they need to not be gambling like their buddy C.J. Abrams was. All joking aside, though, they got a good thing cooking in Washington with this young talent. And I would be shocked if those two players are not the most coveted rookies out of Series 1, James Wood and Dylan Cruz. A couple other rookies I wanted to point out, though, are Kobe Mayo. He was a highly rated Orioles prospect, and he still remains their number one prospect to this day. So we'll wait and see. His rookie card is going to be in this set. As I go through the list here, we have Big Christmas, everybody, Johanski Noel. If you'll remember, he was kind of a cult hero for the Guardians in the playoffs. I like Big Christmas. I like the nickname for sure. So keep an eye out for Johanski Noel's rookie cards. And also, Jace Young on the Tigers, the younger brother of Josh Young from the Rangers, is going to be a rookie card in this set. He got called up late last year and was part of that $17 million Tigers playoff team. If you don't know, that was the total budget of the roster that wound up being on the playoffs. Kind of funny. And then we also have Drew Thorpe, everybody. Drew Thorpe's rookie card for the White Sox is in this set. Drew Thorpe was traded first from the Yankees to the Padres for Juan Soto last year, and then the Padres turned around and flipped Drew Thorpe for Dylan Cease. Drew Thorpe had some arm issues, but then wound up coming up and debuting last year, and he looks pretty good as well for the White Sox.
Well, hopefully the White Sox are a lot better than last year.
They look like it on paper, everybody. They look like it.
Hopefully, yeah.
And the last rookie I want to point out is our guy. We talked about him last year a little bit. Nacho Alvarez Jr., everybody.
Nacho, Nacho, Nacho Man.
That's right. Any excuse to play that song. All right. Well, also releasing with the Topps flagship design is, of course, the next year of 35th anniversary cards. And this year, 35 years will mark the 1990 Topps baseball design. And I'm really excited about this because this year's flagship design leaves a lot to be desired for me. I preferred last year's. They were a lot more fresh looking, in my opinion. And this year goes back to more of a traditional design, all white borders. But with the 35th anniversary set this year, we get 1990, which is like Funktown Central. These cards They don't make any sense. They have weird colors on them, and I just happened to really enjoy them when I was a kid because they were so different from all the other years of cards. So I'm really excited that they're using this year as the 35th anniversary design, and we'll have to wait and see how this set pans out, but I can see already the James Wood rookie card is getting the 1990 treatment, so there's going to be some of those. I'm sure there's going to be autograph variants. I see Jackson Churio's Gold Cup card is getting the 1990 treatment. So now sometimes those are short prints when they include the actual Gold Cup on the design, and so I'm curious. I wish they would do that more. I wish they would put the Gold Cup on the throwback design, but sometimes they make it more of a short print or an extra bonus feature on the card, like anything to make anything more collectible than something else, right?
Well, anything to sell more cards for sure. And people are chasing them.
Yes. And the last thing I want to mention about the 1990 design is that there is a special parallel this year to chase, because if you're familiar with the 1990 Topps set, you might know that there is a card of Frank Thomas, and it was him in his Auburn University uniform, and it said #1 draft pick on the card. And it was Frank Thomas, and it said White Sox already. It was known that the White Sox had drafted him, but it was no pictures of him yet. It was him in his Auburn uniform. Somehow, some versions of this card without his nameplate got distributed into circulation, and if you own one of these cards today, you own a very valuable card, because there's not very many of them in existence.
So if the card manufacturer makes a mistake and puts a wrong picture or wrong face or wrong name or whatever, those cards are super duper. This is like winning a lottery almost.
Kind of, yeah. And this is what happened in 1990 is like basically Topps caught the mistake so early that there is just so few of these Frank Thomas cards without the nameplate on it. So to commemorate that error that they made, they have actually included cards, 35th anniversary cards, without the nameplate of the player as a parallel. And to celebrate Frank Thomas, there are 35 of these versions of each card.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool gimmick. I got to give him a tip of the cap for this one, though, especially the 35. Because, I mean, and just to be clear, you know, if there's a Jackson Merrill, for example, released without a nameplate on it, there's going to be 35 of those in existence. And there's going to be 35 for each player that they do this for.
I see.
So there's not 35 of them total. There's 35 for each player. But that's still cool. It's still a good gimmick. It's still a good parallel. And
so you get a card, it will say 1 out of 35.
Or 5 out of 35 or whatever. But they will be numbered and paralleled. So good luck, everybody, on your searches. We, of course, reported on that Paul Skeens patch a few weeks ago from 2024. That was probably the biggest find from all of last year's releases. And this is now the kickoff of a new year. So here we go. Who will be the hot cards to find this year?
So these cards, the flagship cards, they don't have a piece of wood or piece of uniform in them.
Well, there are going to be some relic cards, as they're called.
Okay.
But they're not like everybody's. There's also a wood parallel this year of cards I saw where the actual card border is made of wood. And how awesome would it be to get a James Wood rookie?
Wow. Does the wooden border will not chip the way the paper does?
Well, I mean, it could still be damaged, of course, but you got to protect it. Yeah,
but you know how flimsy some of the corners are.
Yeah. Especially coming from retail where you don't know who handled them and put them on the shelf or whatever. Yeah.
So that will be all wooden border.
Correct.
Border. Oh, that's neat.
It is very neat. So
I haven't seen cards like that, I don't think.
I've never seen one either. They do exist. They're usually very rare pulls. Obviously, they are usually used, I think, from some lumber. I don't know if they're from the actual player or if they're just random bats. But when you get a relic of a bat in a card of a player, usually it's supposed to be from their bat.
How many bats get broken during the game? They have
exactly. Send another one to the wood chipper for Topps. All right. Okay, everybody. Well, good luck hunting down the 2025 Topps Series 1 let's get it started in here and stay tuned. We may have a special giveaway of Topps Series 1 in our future.
So, knowing all this, are you planning on chasing something?
Me personally, I always want to chase, but then I feel like it's smarter to just choose singles in the end. But yeah, at the end of the day, opening a box of cards is no different than going to the casino. You know, it just depends on if you do it responsibly or not, right?
It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
All right, Forrest Gump. Well, that's all the time I got for this episode of the Nikka Sports Show, everybody. But we had a great time talking about baseball again, and football is officially over. Be sure to like and subscribe and spread the word about the Nikka Sports Show to all your friends and family who love baseball, football, basketball, and even some WWE wrestling, everybody. You never know what you're going to get on the Nikka Sports Show. And today, we were talking baseball. We'll probably be back again Friday to talk more baseball because we're going to have more teams reporting to spring training and we're going to have more injuries to talk about. And who knows, maybe one day Alex Bregman will sign with a team and we'll be able to talk about that as news instead of a rumor.
And we also want to bring you more daily doubles.
We do. We got to look for some varying opinions in our mainstream media. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you with another baseball episode on Friday.